As the midterms loom, the Iran war is grinding on. Prices remain high, and the president's approval rating is plummeting. Joining me now to discuss all of this is Senator Alsobrooks, Democrat from Maryland. Senator, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. We have so many questions here. But are you concerned about the president's current strategy in Iran and this idea that he may be on track for a strategic defeat, as some of our allies fear?
Well, you know what? We're beyond concerned at this point. The truth is this president took our country into a war without a strategic aim. He had no idea how to get our country out of this war. We voted here. I've voted 13 different times to end the war. And what we know as a matter of fact is that our kids, while this war is going on, our kids are dying at the same time that this president's children are getting rich. The cost of the war is being borne by working class people in our country. Again, the ones who are not only being killed, but those who are injured. We see the gas prices, the utility prices, the grocery prices. The cost of the war is being borne by working class people in our country. And so it's beyond a point of being concerned. It absolutely must end.
So is that the message that the Democrats plan to take going into this midterms? Because you are in an enviable position. It's always the case that the incumbent party loses seats at the midterm elections, but it's very rare that you've had this much grist for the mill. Will you be hammering down on the fact that it's working people, ordinary Americans, who are bearing the brunt of all of this chaos while the president and his family gets rich?
Well, you know what? I mean, it's a fact that is inescapable now. That Americans are suffering, that we are not better off, in fact, than we were at the time that he took office, and nothing he said has come true. He said, for example, that he would on day one bring down the cost of groceries, and none of that has happened. And, you know, I've been in Georgia. I was in Mississippi this past weekend, and I was there campaigning for Scott Colum and Colomb, and what I heard from Mississippians is they've lost their health care. I talked to a middle-aged woman who said she's lost her health care. We know that 52 to 53% of people in Mississippi we've lost Medicaid, who relied on it to deliver babies. 500,000 in Georgia lost their health care without the ACA tax credits. So this is something that most people at their kitchen tables now are so clear about, is the damage that has been done to our country and the way that the lives of everyday Americans have been disrupted. Our lives and livelihoods have been changed for the worse. And so it really speaks for itself. And he hurt not only the people who did not vote for him, but this president hurt the people who voted for him as well. And I believe that they're going to show up in these midterm elections and make a different decision.
So you are confident that this is so bad for so many people that they'll turn out even in this midterm elections, given that there were a lot of people who sat it out in 2024 and did not show up for the polls?
Oh, I am confident. You know, as I've mentioned to you, I've been campaigning, and I'm going to be going all across the country. I'll be in North Carolina, Ohio, and other places. And the energy on the ground, I have to tell you, is very high. People are very motivated to come out and to vote in this election. And again, it is because of everything that we have seen with all of the cost of living that people are having to endure. It's the chaos, the cruelty, the grift. You know, this president, who he and his family, $2 billion they have made, and cutting of health care at a time we've spent, we know, well over $100 billion on a war that none of us, that we didn't authorize here in Congress.
So this president has served up for the Democrats a great message going into the midterms. Is that message one that will transcend some of the difficulties within the Democratic coalition, given the fights that we've seen between the establishment and the progressive wing as we've gone into these primaries?
Well, let me tell you what the message is. The message is that Americans ought to, again, be able to regard each other as neighbors. What we're seeing now is that the suffering, it doesn't matter whether the person is a Democrat or Republican, Americans are suffering. That's who this administration really, in my mind, they have attacked, are hardworking, middle-class Americans of every party and of every background. And so the message now is that our country must be taken in a different direction. And I believe that that message, when we talk about the harm that has been done, I think it resonates at the kitchen tables of Americans everywhere. And again, I believe they're going to come out and they are going to vote in their interest. And the interest is to have people in place who are not lining their pockets, this smash and grab that this president and his family and allies have been engaged in. The only people benefited are the billionaires. And I think that is painfully clear to everyone who is watching. And I believe the people are going to come out and vote for Democrats.
I don't mean to press on this, Senator, but there has been a lot of tension between the establishment wing of the Democratic Party and the progressive wing about going further than perhaps some in the party are willing to go. People want change. How much is the party willing to take on going into these midterms?
Listen, we all agree that change has to happen. Because we recognize that although there are people who don't necessarily want to go where the president is going, all of us ought to recognize that fighting for the status quo is over. Nobody wants the status quo. I think that everyone is hungry at this point for tremendous change. And if you ask me what the change is, it is that in our country, those who are right in the middle really have a difficult time getting by. We have help sometimes for those who are the very poorest in our country and the wealthiest, but those who are right in the middle, who cannot afford the cost of housing, who cannot afford the cost of education, these are the people who recognize that the health care systems have not worked for enough people. The financial systems have not worked for enough people who can't get lending for their businesses. Change is being demanded. And that is not about whether that's everyone recognizes that right now we need a change in our country for everyday hardworking people who do everything right and still cannot make it. That's the message.
All right, that's a strong message going into the midterm. Senator Angela Alsobrooks, Democrat of Maryland, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.